Ark's Velonasaur, one of extinction's most curious predators. The Velonasaur is known as a living turret, dwelling mostly within the desert biodome. This creature's origin seems to be a mystery to Helena and most other survivors. Looking at how most of our modern species adapted to the post-element wars, it's safe to assume this species is potentially a descendant of the frilled lizard, or possibly the near extremophile thorny devils, also found in some of our hottest climates, sharing the Velonasaur's very spiky demeanor. With the more likely descendant being the thorny devil, it could explain the possibility of how elements so easily entered the lizard in such large quantities, aiding in rapid evolution. Thorny devils are known to intake their water passively through their skin using tiny networks of grooves that use capillary action to move the water directly towards their mouths after moisture makes contact with it via puddle, rain, or condensation. Because of this, any element polluting the rain, air, or ground would find its way inside these creatures much faster than simply drinking from water sources as other creatures would. The sole reasoning behind this thought process is the same as pollution in our environment today. We have eagles that suffer from um, DET, I think it is, the chemical pollutant that we use to kill bugs and other pests. It would accumulate in the food and in the fish. These eagles would then eat these fish, and it's this cascading effect where, as you go up the food chain, more of this toxin is accumulating because they're eating more things affected by this toxin. Um, it would be similar for the Velonasaur, but in this case, the Velonasaur is just intaking more of it because its skin is taking in more liquid because of the surface area on it, which is all also housing element. The ground that it's walking on and the puddles, the condensation from the ground, from the air, from anything that has water that its skin makes contact with, or anything that has element that could possibly stick to its skin is going to then be absorbed into its body much faster because it's going to eventually make its way into its mouth via this capillary action, via these grooves that are leading water towards its mouth, which would explain this very quick and massive evolution that we see in the couple of thousand years that had been post element wars. With another thing to know, having the posture change from quadrupedal to bipedal, the absolute posture change that this would have occurred, it's reasonable to deduce the very wide stance and posture with the unusual shaping of the arm structures are also results of the mentioned rapid evolution, forced not simply through adaptation, but the element itself within the creature. If you notice, its arms are a little too long. It uses its claws, sure, but with the way that its wrists are positioned, with the way that it moves, how wide its hips are, it doesn't seem like it was naturally bipedal at first. It seems like this creature used to be quadrupedal and was forced upright after a while via forced rapid evolution. And this could be for a number of reasons. We know that element has a almost sentience of its own. It could have been something to do with that. It could just been a random rapid mutation that occurred. And as we know, those don't always go very well and aren't always 100% beneficial to a creature that ends up experiencing one of these random mutations. And that could very well be the case here, where its bones and its body structure is not fully adapted to this bipedal stance that it's kind of been forced into, giving us this wide stance, these arms that are just a little too long, that are a lot more reptilian and lizard like than they are um, theropod. Focusing on the eye of Velonasaur, they are often seen as vertical slits. This is prevalent mostly in ambush predators, helping accurately judge distance from prey, as well as acting as much more precise dynamic light regulars. Re- regulars. Light regulars. They frequent here often. Acting as much more precise dynamic light regulators, opening much wider in the dark to allow for more light to filter through and protect the eye from glare. The idea that maybe Velonasaurs are mostly ambush predators makes a lot of sense. They are very easily some of the slowest theropods that we have. They move all right, but there's plenty of other prey animals in extinction specifically and in the environment on the post-war Earth that can move significantly faster. It would make a lot of sense that they sit and wait somewhere, crouch down, what have you, waiting for prey items to come through, and that is when they strike. That is when they start launching these quills. That is when they start doing these things, and having these slit eyes would help them judge this range to be able to fire the quills that we are about to talk about, um, along with helping them in their hunting practices. The spiked fins, as they are labeled in this dossier, don't seem to have much of a bone structure supporting them, but instead consist of muscle, keratinous spikes, and gas that's then built up within the structure to help raise and subsequently fire the protrusions towards its prey. When flattened against its head and neck, these spikes would also act as an excellent deterrent against larger predators, with any finding themselves with a very unpleasant mouthful of pain. When used as projectiles, these spikes are capable of taking down anything from a dodo to incredibly large prey. While possible, it is most likely Velonasaurs are more opportunistic hunters, choosing to attack weak and wounded creatures given the energy it expends to launch these projectiles. For porcupines, regrowing quills would usually be around 1 millimeter per 2 days, and given the mass amount of element present in the environment, it may not need as much of a caloric intake or time to fuel these growths, allowing them to grow back faster than what would be possible for most modern era creatures of today. These spikes are present over much more than just the head, with similar ones being found running along the body and down towards the tip of its tail. These, however, are not propelled the same way as the ones present on its fins, and more so must be dislodged with force, particularly when the Velonasaur is found surrounded or backed into a corner, where it would flare its fins out threateningly to appear larger and wildly flail its body to dislodge and launch as many of its keratin spikes as possible. As noted previously, the spikes present along its face are most likely propelled by a contraction of muscle and pressure built within gas glands housed inside those fins, releasing the spikes with force towards the intended target. This, coupled with the depth perception of the slitted vertical eyes, as we stated earlier, would make it very precise, very accurate with how it shoots because of the fact that this allows it to gauge distance. It can better see the depth and distance of a target from point A to point B, allowing it to pinpoint where these spikes need to go and being able to potentially adjust with muscle contractions how these spikes are being launched and aiming them with these muscle contractions. As usual, I would question the survivability of the Velonasaur after the reseed protocol, but I feel like this would be better discussed by the newest friend of the channel and Velo's biggest fan, Divik, so I'll let him take it from here.
Hello, friends. I'm Divik, from Paleoarc News. Yeah, that's me. Like Dark said, I love the Velonasaur. It is one of my favorite fantasy creatures in Arc, and I jumped at the chance to get involved with this video. Now, with the success of the Reseed Protocol, aka the dev wiping of element from Earth, the creatures, like Snow Owl and Managarmr, would get their element removed, of course. Now, those two sadly wouldn't survive the purging of the element for various reasons. Velonasaur, on the other hand, would face hardships, I can speak, for a while, but would eventually thrive in one way or another. Element for the Velonasaur appears anyway to only affect the projectile spikes. How? Well, the rapid regeneration of said spikes, aka it's not going to be the living machine gun that we know and love. Well, that I love. Now, it's possible that these spikes would grow back over time, only it would take quite a while. You know, um, and eating habits, which we'll get into in just a second, will definitely help with that. Now, the closest thing to projectile spikes and things of that nature would actually be porcupines with their quills, taking a bit of time depending on the season. Now, for porcupines, it would take like 2 to 3 months normally, But if things are not best, the climate isn't quite right, you could see this cap it taking almost a year to grow said quills back, 6 to 8 months. Now, how does this translate to the old Velonasaur? Well, I could see it happening in different ways, actually. Well, in the African savannas, right? This would probably be like the best place for Velonasaur, looking at the extinction dome and the fact that it's a desert that this thing spawns in. The hotter climates and the fact that this thing is a reptile could have crippling effects in some form or fashion, but I would say the eating habits, eating consistently, being able to catch medium to small animal prey items and whatnot, and also the fact that it has claws and can jump and different things. There's many and different ways that this thing would be able to get food consistently, and that food could also aid in, well, it getting its spikes back, because this is going to take energy. It's going to take time, of course, much like anything else. But there is also the occasional carcass or and potential scavenging from larger carnivores and whatnot. Sadly, though, Velonasaur isn't the biggest carnivore on extinction, but we knew that already. Allosaurus. But anyways, that's all I got for this one. It was a very fun opportunity to get involved with this video. I enjoyed it very, very much. I'm going to give you guys back to old Dark, and he's going to finish this thing out for you. And let me know, how do you think Velonasaur would fare in real life Africa? There's a question for you. Let us know in the comment section below, and go ahead and take it back from here, Dark.
I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that jazz. I'm recording this outro before before I've gotten any of Divik's bits, just so it's done, it's out of the way, it's getting uploaded. Just in case something happens, later today and I'm not able to record it. So I hope you guys enjoyed him. I hope that his part went well. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Him and I are also doing a bit of a podcast on his channel on Tuesday. That's happening Tuesday of this week. So tomorrow, from the release of this video, at least I hope it's tomorrow. Um, if not, it's going to be not tomorrow. I don't know when it's gonna be. But we're gonna talk about Ark, the what's going on with it, what we think about different things, and go on about that. It'll be live on his channel as it goes on. So if you're interested in that, make sure you go and check his channel out. I'll leave the link to his channel in the description of this video, along with a invite to our Discord server, mine specifically. You can go ahead and join that. That'll let you know when these videos come out before YouTube does. It'll let you know when I'm live before YouTube does. And yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I really do. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Stay hydrated. Bye.